Today we are going to conclude the Satipattahana Sutta, four foundations of mindfulness. As you know, there are four foundations of mindfulness. One is in Majjhima Nikaya. It's called four foundation, just Satipattahana Sutta. The discourse that we have been using is called Satipattahana Sutta. The difference between these two is the one in Majjhima Nikaya is it doesn't have the fourth foundations or Dhammanupassana in detail. It is the last part is abbreviated, but just mentioning four foundations of mindfulness and not given all the details. The one we find in Digha Nikaya called Satipattahana Sutta, it has detailed explanation of the Dhammanupassana, especially Four Noble Truths. This explanation is very much like in Satipattahana Sutta, also in Majjhima Nikaya. Satipattahana Sutta is not Satipattahana Sutta, but detailed analysis of the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the first sermon. Anyway, as we have been doing in the past, let us spend some time at the beginning of the class, the Dhamma involved in this section. This section is extremely important because sometimes only this section is taken out of all the Buddha's teaching, only this section, and called middle path or the Noble Eightfold Path. And middle path is not enough for some people, they ask for upper middle path. I think I mentioned it earlier, when people ask me whether there is an upper middle path, because the middle path is not enough for them, like upper middle class. I said there is upper middle path. Yes. That I call supramundane Noble Eightfold Path. Mundane middle path is called just middle path. Supramundane middle path is called upper middle path. Upper middle path, when followed properly, two more are added. What are the two? They are not mentioned here. They are
that's Rupa.
Huh?
Rupa and Anandakula. Can you get some chairs? Yeah.
Oh. what I was saying is that Arahants have two more. What are they? What are the additional two?
Arahants have additional two?
Yeah.
For supermundane.
Yeah, for
What about-
supermundane.
Right knowledge and right liberation.
Right knowledge and right liberation.
Oh, now that's 10.
10. So in the, I think these things we should remember because these very important things. When Buddha asks 10 questions, asks Sopaka, little boy who was older, who was a Samanera, and before given high ordination, Buddha asked him 10 questions. Does anybody know the 10 questions? No. Ekanamaki. What is one? What is one? Sabbe sabta aharathithika. All living beings lives on food. We will discuss this in the next class. Denamaking, what is two? Namancha rupancha, name and mentality and materiality. Then Teen Namaking, what are the three? Tisso Vedana, Sukha, Dukkha, Adukkha, Sukha. Chattari Namaking, what is four? Four Noble Truths. Panchanamaking, Panchupadanakkhandha, five aggregates. Chanamaking, what is the six? Six senses. What is the seven? Sattva-bojjhanga. What is the eight?
Noble Eight.
Eh?
Noble Eightfold.
Noble. What is the nine? Nine abodes of living beings. Navasattavasa. What is the 10? Dasa angehi samannagato arahati uchyati. An arahant who endowed with 10 factors. What are those additional factors? Samma, knowledge,
He said liberation.
vimutti jnana darsana.
Mm.
Now, by following this, you can practice mundane Noble Eightfold Path. When you attain supramundane Noble Eightfold Path, you have automatically added two more factors.
Bhante, is that 10 things, is those questions in a sutta?
Yeah.
Oh.
It is called Khuddaka Nikaya. The very first thing in the Khuddaka Nikaya is 10 questions.
Bhante, what was the Pali word for knowledge? Is it samma?
Jnana,
Oh, jnana, oh, that's right. Okay.
vimutti,
Yeah.
samma.
jnana.
Vimutti, liberation.
Yes.
Vimutti jnana darsana,
Jnana is okay.
knowledge and vision. Vimutti jnana darsana. Okay. And I believe all of you know these 8 by heart. Is there anybody who does not know these 8 by heart?
You mean Noble Eightfold Path?
Noble Eightfold Path? You don't know? It is time for you to learn it.
It's all right in here.
Yeah. Without looking any of those things, One should be able to, all this must be at your fingertip. Anytime, anywhere. If you say that you come to this Dhamma class, come to Bhavana and so forth, and if somebody asks you, what do you follow, you should be able to tell, I am following the middle path. What is the middle path? Then you should be able to tell what is the middle path. Middle path is comprised of these 8 steps. No other middle path. Little bit of, alcohol here, little bit of not alcohol there, and make a champo. That is not the middle path. white lie here, black lie there, not middle path. Eh? That is how people say. If you say, go to house and they offer you a drink, you say, I don't drink. Come on, have a middle path. Have a little faith. That is not the kind of middle path that the Buddha taught. So we must be very clear of what we mean by middle path. 2 other people are coming.
Oh, that's
Huh?
that lady that takes care of the
Yeah,
cleaning.
Julia.
Ah,
I don't know if they are coming
or Juliana.
here. Yeah.
So, so the Buddha asked the question, I think there are more. Yeah? Now now let us begin with this last section. And what because is the noble truth of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Is just this noble eightfold path, that is, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness and right concentration. And these 8 words, view, intention, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness and concentration. These 8 words everybody must memorize. Not very difficult to memorize 8 words. Okay. Now these are the 8 words with the adjective right mentioned in the middle path. These are the middle path. Only 8 words. Not a big deal. Very easy to remember. 8 words. So Buddha explains these 8 words. And what because is right view? Knowledge of suffering, knowledge of the origin of suffering, the knowledge of cessation of suffering, and knowledge of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Now, this is called right view. I say the Pali word is samma ditti. Ditti, in a way, literally is view or vision. But in a more closer to the original meaning is understanding. Vision or view can be sort of limited in meaning. Understanding is more complete, and therefore I prefer using the word understanding. What? Right understanding. Right understanding, and also very easy for anybody to remember. What is right understanding? Only these 4 words. What are the 4 words? 4 noble truths. Suffering, cause of suffering, end of suffering, the path leading to the end of suffering. Now, if you try to deny that suffering exists, you do not understand the Four Noble Truths or Noble Eightfold Path. Number 1. If you deny for one reason or another that suffering does not exist, beyond that we cannot expect anything from you of the teachings of the Buddha. Okay? It does exist. People ask all sort of questions. How about my joy of having marriage, good marriage, joy of having good children, joy of having good health, joy of having this. What about that? Is it suffering? They ask, is it suffering?
It can be.
Eh?
Definitely.
You think so?
Sometimes, yes.
No, not sometimes. If it is sometimes suffering, then we can neglect it, ignore it. That is why we say we don't understand suffering. So I remember when I was in Malaysia, a woman came to me and said, Bhante, Buddha has taken 6 years to understand suffering, going through mortification. Bhante, I understood suffering 6 days after my marriage. Do you think she understood suffering? No. That is a very insignificant amount of suffering. The suffering, we have already discussed this earlier. I am asking these questions to check your knowledge, how much you remember, how much you understood suffering. Apparently not very much.
So is it because it's impermanent? Anything that brings you happiness, it's also impermanent.
Yeah.
So that's why we call it suffering.
Huh?
And it does not last
That's very good. That's very true. And that we can deny. We cannot deny. Everything is always impermanent. Everything was impermanent, everything is impermanent, everything will be impermanent. In 3 times. This is called Akalika Dhamma. Akalika Dhamma means Dhamma unaffected by time. Dhamma, you cannot say that was true then, not today. But it was true then, true now, will be true in future. Nobody with average sense deny that suffering existed then in India or in Middle East or in Africa those days, but not here. Even here in this very rich, powerful country of the world, suffering exists exactly the same way when it existed millions of years ago and millions of years later. That is why it is called noble truth, noble, undeniable truth. And understanding that is right view, right understanding. So you can see the depth of suffering. It's a very keen, sharp insight. That is 1/4 of right understanding. I say this, I emphasize this for all of us without any hesitation, sincerely, honestly, at least to think. This is not limited to this class, but this is something that we have to think very. This is the golden statement of the Buddha's teaching. Think. Remember this and think again and again and again and again. Here, there, wherever we are, we think about it. The more we think about it, clearer it will be in our mind. But honestly, sincerely, impartially, with normal state of mind we have to think. Not with the distorted state of mind, not when we are sick, and when something very bad happens to our life, not only when somebody dies in our family, not only those moments, but average, in our average life, ordinary way, normal time, also even enjoying our life, we have to think about it, think. Now, also Buddha cautioned us, if we simply dwell upon suffering, and don't say anything other than that, then we end up in pessimism. But he is smarter than that. So he said, Buddha always is compared to a Visakka Sallakatta. Visakka is physician. Sallakatta means surgeon. Why? The surgeon, what you call physician, diagnose diseases, and according to his prognosis, he identify the disease and prescribe medicine. And surgeon is cutting. various parts of our body. They cut and cut and cut and cut and treat and remove the cause. Similarly, Buddha treated our mind with a prescription. And then he treated our mind and body with analysis, analyzing. It is just like cutting. He analyzed with wisdom. So he, in his supremely enlightened state of mind, he saw the universal suffering. It is not provincial, not temporal, but it is universal. And then further he went to see what is the cause of this suffering. So, understanding the cause of suffering is the second of the four categories of understanding. What is the first category? Understanding suffering as it is, without any distortion. The second is the cause of it, also as it is, no distortion. So, that is the second. What is the cause of suffering? I just want to ask you the same.
Birth is the
Huh?
birth, being born. Birth is the cause of suffering.
That is an example.
Desire.
Right. Desire supported by ignorance. Desire supported by ignorance. Where there is desire, ignorance is there. Where is there desire, ignorance, desire is there. These two always go hand in hand. Each of these takes many hours to explain, but I try to make it as quick as possible. The suffering, cause of suffering is desire supported by ignorance. That is why sometimes he used the word desire, sometimes he used the word ignorance. Independent origination began with ignorance. Then the Dhammacakkappavattana starts with greed. And this discourse also, when he explains suffering, the cause of suffering, he said, Tassaiva tannaya asesa virāga nirodho chāgo patnissaggo mutti anālayo. What you got? Sāyava tanna, tassāyava tannāya asesa virāga nirodho chāgo patnissaggo mutti. The very same suffering, end of suffering, is the end of desire. When I say this, there may many questions may arise in your mind, but we sustain those questions for a while until we finish this. I don't think we can finish the whole thing in detail. Now the third truth is the cessation of suffering, just like a doctor who identifies the cause of our sickness, and when the cause is removed, completely destroy the cause, then there is no suffering. Then he did not stop there, then removing the cause is the end of suffering, but how to remove it? How to remove it? That is called
Magga.
Magga, right? Noble Eightfold Path. Now, which is actually, when we think very carefully, these 8 steps are very beautifully, deeply explained in various discourses. Anyway, number 2, right understanding is understanding of the Four Noble Truths, including Noble Eightfold Path. We are discussing Noble Eightfold Path, but that also is part of the first step of the Noble Eightfold Path. Then the next is, and what bhikkhus right intention? Intention for renunciation, intention for ill will, intention of non-ill will, and intention of non-cruelty. This is called right intention. Now, intention of renunciation. Think of renouncing every day. How to renounce? Can you think of renunciation? Anybody?
I can. Well,
How come? Yeah.
I can think of it, I just can't do it. I'm
Ve-
trying.
Very true, very true. But if we, any difficult thing can do when we understand how. Renunciation is very difficult for everybody, but it is not impossible. So we must start renouncing trivial things first. Trivial things we learn to be attached to. Unnecessary things first. When you look at your life and try to prioritize your needs, what you find at the bottom of the list is needless. You can live without that. Right? Make the priority list first. And then, for sometimes some people cannot make the list. I remember a friend of mine who stayed here. I ordained him. He was taking care of his grandfather. He died when he was almost 90 years old. When he was 89, this young man, taking care of his grandfather, said, "Grandpa, shall I clean your room?" In that room there were, old cans, beer cans and bottle, openers and screws and, things like that. Old shoes, centuries old, slippers, all up to the ceiling. Entire room is full. When he tries to throw away one beer can, he says, "Oh no, I'm not dead yet. I might need that. Keep it. Until he died, he never let him clean his room. Why? He thought everyone, even this water bottle, after drinking, he stole in the room. He doesn't want to throw away. How can you renounce? So you must learn what is necessary, what is not, and then start renouncing what is not. Not difficult. Anyway, that intention is very important. Intention renunciation. Intention of non-ill will. That is also very difficult because it is so deeply rooted in our subconscious mind, our hatred, anger, resentment, irritation, dislike. It comes in various shapes and colors and stay in our mind. So, to cultivate non-ill will, meaning non-ill will means
Goodwill towards.
goodwill, or metta. Non-ill will is one thing, but in addition to non-ill will, we must do something positive. Non-ill will appears to be negative. The positive of that is practicing metta, living friendliness, or goodwill. I think goodwill is even better. It is against ill will. When the will is ill, it is ill will. When the will is well, it is good will. Then intention of non-cruelty. We have cruel thought in our mind, cruel thought about someone whom we don't appreciate, we don't like, for one reason or other. A cruel thought arises in our mind. Now, even these intentions are wonderful to reduce our suffering. Friends, in practice, when we have an intention of letting go of trivial thing, if it is this much in size, that much suffering will disappear from our mind. If it is this much trivial thing we collect, and if we let go of that much we are happy. So Buddha gave very practical advice. Okay, now we go to the third, right speech. Abstaining from false speech, abstaining from divisive speech, abstaining from harsh speech, abstaining from useless, abstaining from the useless chatter, useless thought, words. We think about it, that also is not very difficult to practice. When we take 24 hours, for instance, a day, 24 hours a day, and see how many times we had spoken correctly the truth, and how many times we spoke divisive talks to divide the united, and harsh speech. Sometimes harsh speech appears superficially sweet, But the intention underneath the sweet speech is very, very harsh. That kind of innuendo, harsh speech is sometimes very common. And moreover, the most common of all is gossip. The Pali word, you see, I very often use this, it sounds very like a joke, but it is very true. Pali word is Sampappalapa. Sampappalapa sounds in English just like blah 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 blah. Don't we do that? And that should be avoided. Why should we avoid that? Now, don't forget the purpose of doing this. What is the purpose?
Eliminate all the cause of suffering.
Yeah. This we practice to get rid of suffering. Everything that we discuss here is a sort of a little remedy, treatment, little treatment to reduce some suffering. At the beginning it is very difficult, very harsh. Like when you have a wound, if a very compassionate doctor or nurse or pharmacist or friend comes and try to remove the abscess, the pus, the wound is so bad, may have even created gangrene. So the compassionate person has to clean it. He may take swabs, lot of cotton, what you call hydroperoxide, something like that, and put into the wound and remove all the pus. It is so painful, you feel like kicking the person. So painful. But once the pus removed or the dirt removed and applied little medicine, within a day you will see the difference. Then you want to go and hug and kiss the person whom you hated at the beginning, because you begin to feel better. Similarly, at the beginning, it seems very difficult, not easy. But difficult thing becomes easy when we practice it. Then right action. Right action is abstaining from killing, right? First one, abstaining from killing, abstaining from taking what is not given, abstaining from sensual misconduct. What is sensual misconduct? Sometimes it is translated in some places as sexual misconduct. Sexual misconduct is very narrow again. Sensual misconduct is very broad. That means we abuse our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body and mind. We abuse. And abstaining from abusing our senses is called abstaining from sensual misconduct. Of course, if you know Pali, you can see it is given in plural, not in singular. Karamesu. Okay. And when we have this kind of discipline, restraining our senses, we enjoy life. Then, what is right livelihood? Noble disciples, having abandoned wrong livelihood, earns his living by right livelihood. Now this is not explained in detail here. Wrong livelihood is buying and selling livestock. Buying and selling. That's a wrong livelihood. Buying and selling poison. Wrong livelihood. Buying and selling illicit drugs. Buying and selling alcohol. Buying and selling slaves. And then cheating in measuring. In measurement, sometimes people learn how to cheat. Cheating in there. Cheating in income tax. Buddha has not mentioned that. But it is a very common thing. Cheating in income tax. Keeping two books. One to show to the authorities, one to keep one's own secret profit. Like that, all these are considered to be wrong livelihoods. And there are many things to say. I have written whole books on these things if you like to read. Then right effort. Right effort is divided into 4 categories. Here a bhikkhu generates the will for non-arising of unarisen evil, unwholesome state. He makes an effort, arouses energy, applies his mind and strives. He generates the will to abandon arisen evil, unwholesome states. He makes an effort, arouses energy, applies his mind and strives. He generates the will for the arising of unarisen wholesome states. Similarly, as before, he makes an effort, arouses energy, applies his mind and strives. He generates the will to maintain arisen wholesome states, to prevent their decline, to increase, expand and fulfill them by development. He makes an effort, arouses energy, applies his mind and strives. Now, what are the 4 things, 4 kind of efforts? 1,
Not like the
2,
unwholesome, the unwholesome, not like the unwholesome to arise.
Okay, let me give you in few simple words.
Okay.
First is to prevent. Second is to overcome. Third is to arouse. Fourth is to maintain. 4 words. First is prevent, better than cure. You prevent. What do we prevent?
Unwholesome.
Unwholesome thoughts, words and deeds. If you have never done anything some called wrong, if you have never done it, don't start it. If you have never done something wrong, never start it. That is very simple. If you have never stolen even a safety pin from somebody, continue that, don't do that. If you have never taken drugs, illicit drugs, never take it. If you have never drunk alcohol, never start it. Like that, prevent unwholesome things from beginning. Second, for some reason, due to certain circumstances, under certain influences, you might have done something wrong. Ethically, morally wrong. But that's not a big deal. Don't do it again. Don't do it again. That is overcoming. Overcoming that temptation. Once you tasted something, it seems very tasty, and then when you practice these steps of the Noble Eightfold Path, you decide, well, I did such and such because of such and such and such, but I found it harmful to my mental state, my physical state, my current status as parents and teachers and so forth and so responsible person. I don't do that. Determine. That is number 2. Number 3, if you have not done something wholesome, arouse it. If you have not done something wholesome, wonderful, meaningful, beneficial to you, to others, to the society, start it. Fourth effort is, once you started, continue it. In simple terms, these are the 4 types of efforts. One is to prevent, second is to overcome, third is to arouse, fourth is to maintain. And then number 7, right mindfulness. Right mindfulness. Right mindfulness is the name of this discourse. Satipattahana, establishing mindfulness, is the name. And right mindfulness, again described here, giving little details. The bhikkhus, you know this word, this is addressed to bhikkhus. This doesn't mean only the bhikkhus should practice this. According to detailed commentarial explanation, anyone who practices this is a bhikkhu. But in this case, as sometimes sutras are given to bhikkhus because they were the closest associates of the Buddha. They always were with the Buddha, therefore it was very easy for him to address them. It doesn't mean that only bhikkhus can practice this. Okay, the bhikkhus, a bhikkhu dwells contemplating the body, in the body ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having subdued longing and grief for the world. And this is repeated for the other 3, contemplating the feeling, contemplating the mind, and contemplating phenomena. So the 4 foundations are mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feelings, mindfulness of the mental states, and mindfulness of mental objects, mind objects. And we discussed that in this, all alone in this sutta. Then right concentration. Right concentration is defined in terms of attaining 4 jhanas. the description is given. I try to brief it, make it brief, because I thought we would have some time to go through the Pali. Apparently there may be very, very little time to go through the Pali. Right concentration is attaining first jhana, second jhana, third jhana and fourth jhana. And the description of jhanas also are given in the detailed explanation. Secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states, a bhikkhu enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by thought and examination, and includes rapture and happiness born of seclusion. That is the description of the first jhana. Second jhana, with the subsiding of thought and examinations, he enters and dwells in the second jhana, which has internal placidity and unification of mind, is free from thought and examination, and includes rapture and happiness born of concentration. That is the description of the second jhana. Third jhana is with the fading away as well of rapture. He dwells in equanimity, mindful and clearly comprehending, and he experiences happiness with the body. He enters and dwells in third jhana with the noble ones declared. He is equanimous, mindful, one who dwells happily. That is the description of third jhana. Fourth jhana is with the abandoning of pleasure and pain, and with the previous the passing away of joy and grief. He enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, which is neither painful nor pleasant, and includes the purification of mindfulness and equanimity. This is the fourth jhana. Now, this ends in brief the Satipattahana Sutta discourse. Now you can see, when you look at it very carefully, more closely, you can expand it to a very, very great extent. So that is the end of the discourse. Now let us go through the Pali at least for a few minutes. Now you have the papers. You have additional paper? Okay. Never mind. Okay. I think since you have papers, it is very easy to go through the Pali. Katamanti bhikkhe bhikkhu nirodha gamini patipada arya satyam. Dukkha nirodha gamini patipada arya satyam. Kataman means what? Cha means and. Dukkha is translated as suffering. Nirodha means cessation. Gamini leading to. Patipada, the way. Arya Satyam, noble truth. So this first line is easy to translate into English because they all are given in the same order as in English sentence. There are some other places where you will have to change the order of words to make sense in English. Ayang means this. Ayang. Eva, indeed, or just. Ariyo, noble. Attangiko, maggo. Attangika, eightfold. Atta means 8. Anga means limbs. 8 limbs. Like our body parts are called anga. Hand, leg, and so on. Part of the body is called anga. Magga means path. So, Seyatidam. Seyatidam, although the word is very long, it simply means that is Samma Ditta, Samma Sankappa, etc. that we have already discussed. Samma means right, correct. So, Ditti, view, Sankappa is intention. Sankappa also is thought. Sometimes it is called Vitakka in Pali. Vitakka, Sankappa, both are synonyms. Vacha is words, verbs or speech. Kammanta means action. Vayama is Aji is livelihood. Vayama means effort. Sati, mindfulness. Samadhi, concentration. All these are easy to understand. Then Katamanti Bhikkhave Samma Ditti. So, Yanko Bhikkhave Dukkhaṃ Dukkhe Jnanam Dukkha Samudaya Jnanam. Yang, that, ko indeed, Bhikkhave Dukkhe Jnanam, knowledge of suffering. Jnana means knowledge or knowing. Dukkha Samudaya, Samudaya means arising. Jnana is knowledge. Again Dukkha Nirodha. Nirodha means cessation. Jnana. And Gamini Patipada, the Gamini is going, Patipada is the path.
But there is Samudaya origin or arising?
Samudaya,
Is it both words okay? Or?
Samudaya arising, origin, perhaps origin also we can use how it originates, how it arises. Dukkha Nirodhe, cessation. Nirodhe is in cessation, of cessation. Again, Nirodhagamini Patipada, one word, compound noun. So we break into segments. Okay, jnana is knowledge. Ayang uchati bhikkhave samma ditti. Ayang, this is Uchyati called. Samma Ditti. Katanoti because Samma Sankappo. We have discussed that Sankappa is intention. Okay. Then Nekkamma Sankappa. Nekkamma means renunciation. Thought of renunciation or intention of renunciation. Vyapada is ill will. Avyapada means not ill will. Vyapada has of course deep meaning. Then avyapada sankappa. Avihimsa. Himsa is hurting. Avihimsa means not hurting. Then Katamadhika Samma Vacha, right speech. Then Samma Samadhi. Veramani Vacha. Vacha means speak. Musa is false. Vacha, speech. Pisuna is abstaining from divisive speech. The word Pisuna Vacha is it has a deep meaning. Pisuna means pe sunya. Pe means priya. Priya means friendly. When two people are friendly and somebody comes and put little poison to break their friendship, that is called pe sunya. Pe means priya. Priya means friendly. Sunya means destroying. Sunya. So destroying friendship is called pe sunya. So the words we use, the speech we make to break the friendship between two people is called pe sunya.
Bhante,
Yeah.
why is it musavada instead of musavacha? Why is it vada?
Vada or vacha the same.
Same.
Hmm? For debate, for instance, in Pali and Sanskrit, debate is called vada. Vada also is used for schools, like Theravada and so forth. So it has several meanings. Okay. Then Vacha. Veramani is abstaining. Okay? Ayamujudibhika Samma Vacha. Samma Kammanta. Kammanta means action. Kammanta actually, when you say action, I don't know, it's very vague. Kammanta actually in Pali is job. Your job, your livelihood. Translated into English as action, I don't know this, I've been using this, but I have question in my mind because it doesn't convey the full meaning of Pali word kammanta.
But it's mainly bodily action, right?
Yeah,
Bodily action.
bodily action.
Right.
When you say action
Action movie.
in English, you take an action. When you say you take an action, that is not a job. It is something temporary. You just talk, but no action. So the word action has a very sort of limited connotation, or depending on where you use the word action. But the livelihood, Pali word kammanta, has deeper meaning. That is for the entire living. Then Panatipata. Pana means life in Pali. Sanskrit prana is life. That is why this the breathing is called prana. Yama means discipline. Pranayama means using the life force or discipline your life force. Prana. Atipata means depriving or cutting off. You cut off the prana. That is life force. Adinnadana. Dinna is given. Dinna means not given. Adana means taking. Adana, taking. Upadana means, what is upadana?
Taking up.
Grasping. Grasping. Samadhana means
Share.
peace.
Peace.
Adana, Upadana, Samadhana and Bhudana. What is Bhudana? Burying in the ground. All these places we find dana, but each places dana means something different. Adana means taking, Upadana means grasping. Samadhana means pacifying, making you peaceful. And Bhudana means giving to the ground. So, that is called Ajiva. Then Vayama means, Vayama in Sanskrit, Vyayama meaning exercise. Vayama.
What's effort over here?
But in what it means here is effort. Yeah. So 4 types of effort. First is the prevention. Second is overcoming.
Third one is arousing, and the fourth one is
maintaining. In Pali, Sangvarapadana, Pahanapadana, Bhavanapadana, Anurakanapadana in Pali. Okay. Then mindfulness, we discussed it already. So, conclusion. We have not discussed the conclusion. Okay. This is the conclusion. If anyone should develop these 4 establishment of mindfulness in such a way for 7 years. Now let us see this. Yohi kochi bhikkhave. Yohi, if anybody. Yohi kochi. All these 3 means if anybody. Bhikkhave ime these chattaro Satipattahana 4 establishments of mindfulness. Evam bhaveya sattavassani. Evam in such a way, bhaveya should develop sattavassani for 7 years. One of 2 fruits could be expected for him. Tassa means for him. Dvinnam of 2. The original word is dve. Dvinnam is genitive case. Of 2. Phalanam, phala means fruits. Anyatarang phalang. Anyatara means one of them. Phalanam, fruits. Patikanka could be expected. So if somebody practices these 4 foundations of mindfulness exactly the way it is given, not in some other ways. But in these 4 foundations, there are many subdivisions. Each of them is enough to gain one of these 2 fruits. 4 foundations of mindfulness is divided into many groups, and if we practice only one of them, each, say for instance, mindfulness of breathing is the first of the 4 foundations, the mindfulness of the body. Mindfulness of the body is divided into 5 groups, 6 groups. First group is mindfulness of the breath. If one practices mindfulness of breath alone, without anything else, that alone is enough to gain one of these 2 results. Now just imagine mindfulness of the body divided into 6 groups, mindfulness of feeling 8 categories, mindfulness of the mind, 9 pairs, and mindfulness of the Dhamma, 5 groups. If one picks up only one of them, that alone is enough to gain one of these 2 results, provided the person practices it exactly as it is given. Just imagine if somebody practiced the entire 4 foundations of mindfulness. How quickly the person attains. However, if one of them is practiced and gain one of these 2 results, one doesn't have to practice the others. Why is that? Because in that little section you practice, all others are included. To see this we will have to practice. When we practice we can see how others are connected to this one single practice, one single sector. So, now one of the two fruits will be expected, could be expected. What are they? Either final knowledge here and now. If there is a trace of clinging left, non-returner. I mean, the best, the highest price you gain is the attainment of full enlightenment. If you don't get the first prize, you get the second prize. That is never return a state. Never return a state. So, tassadinna prana. Ditteva dhamme anya. Ditteva dhamme means here and now. The eva means emphasizing. In this very life. Ditteva dhamme. Anya. Anya means knowledge. Now, anya sometimes is used for not knowing. Anya. For instance, when ignorance is explained, described, dukkhe anyanam. When knowledge is explained, dukkhe jnanam. When ignorance is explained, dukkhe anjana. And anya is also used here for knowing. You see? Knowing also is anya, not knowing also is anya. In not knowing, anya, jna is to know. Jna is to know. Ajna means not know. Here anya, for knowing anya means the past tense. Past tense. You have known. Yeah. Sativa upadisesa. Sati, we use the word sati for mindfulness as a noun. But sati here is used as a verb. That means if there is sati. Because it is used with va. Sati va necessarily is verb in subjunctive mood, indecisive mood. Okay? Upadi sesa. Upadi means clinging. Sesa means remaining. Upadi sesa. Anagamita. Gamita means going, anagamita means not, no, agamita. Agamita means coming, anagamita means not coming. So, 7 years, not too long. When we practice 7 years, Buddha has given warranty, money back warranty. And so you have to follow this additional clause printed in very fine letters for you to get qualified for this.
So Bhante, does that make you an extended warranty? Since you studied so long?
I
Extended warranty, extra warranty.
I bought the extended warranty. I have bought it. Just in case. Before that, it may break. Okay. Okay. So Buddha reduced 7 years to 6 years, 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 1 year, half an year, and then finally 7 days. 7 days. Okay. Sat, you can see on page 8. Tittatu bhikkhave adhamaso. Yohi koti bhikkhave me sattaro satipatthana evang bhaviya sattahang. You can see this. I don't know. Okay. I think Sattahang is 7 days. The word.
In Hindi, we use like week, we call sapta.
Huh?
In Hindi, we call week sapta.
Satta. Yeah. Ahang is a day. Ahang also is used for me, I. But here ahang is used the Sattahang. So, and concluded the discourse saying, because of this, okay. So he concluded 7 days and then said, Itiyang, okay. Ekayano ayam bhikkhave maggo sattanang visuddhya soka pariddhavana samatikva. We discussed this at the very beginning.
Right, yes.
The 5 purposes of practicing meditation. You can see it again at the end. Buddha concluded. This is how his discourse becomes perfect. The 5 purposes of practicing meditation are given here again at the end. Sattanang visuddhya. These 5 also you must remember. Why we meditate? The purpose of meditation. What are they? Sattanang visuddhya, for the purification of being, satta. Then soka pariddhavanam samatikkamaya. Soka, sorrow and lamentation, to overcome sorrow and lamentation. Then dukkha domanasanam atthangamaya, to overcome suffering and grief. Nyaya sadhigamaya, to attain the path, to get into the path. Nyaya means the method. Get into the theme.
Yes.
And the nibbana satikiriyaya, for the realization of nibbana. These are the 5 purposes. Why we meditate? To purify our mind, to overcome sorrow and lamentation. Third is to overcome grief and sorrow. Fourth is to get into the trend, into the path, Noble Eightfold Path. Fifth is to realize Nibbana. For this purpose we meditate. All other purposes are very trivial, peripheral, not in the main group of main purposes. So, finally he said, iti, so, yantang vuttang. Yang, what, tang, that vuttang said. Idang, idametang paticca uttang. Idang, this, etang, that, paticca, reference to, this was said. At the beginning, what he said was said in reference to this attainment. I think that is the end of the discourse. Idang avocha bhagava, idang that avocha said, Bhagava the Sublime One, and then Attamana te bhikkhu bhagavato bhastam abhinandunti. Attamana delighted or elated. Te those bhikkhus bhikkhu bhagavato bhajatam Buddha's explanation or words. Abhinandunti were delighted. I think that is the end of discourse and the class today. Now we can stop here, and if you have further questions you can ask. Next class will be next week on the 14th, and we will discuss Samma Ditti Sutta. We start Samma Ditti Sutta is also a very profound discourse. Only when you look at it you can see how profound it is. We will try to bring up the Dhamma involved in the Samma Ditti Sutta. Any further question?
Bhante, when you mentioned the right livelihoods, or the or wrong livelihoods, did you say buying and selling weapons?
Mm-hmm.
Is that one of them as well?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Buying, selling and producing and using for money. All involved as tribal livelihood. Yeah.
So Bhante, you mentioned that even if you practice one category, subcategory of the four foundations, so suppose just like breathing, anapanasati breathing, this is the one category under the body foundation. So that itself would lead us to realize it. That's and
Definitely.
so basically, what I'm understanding, even though we are becoming aware of only the one subcategory, but all the other categories are also aligned. If you're practicing correctly, then everything is aligned.
Yes.
All the four foundations are working.
Right.
But at the moment, our focus attention is just this one portion.
Yeah. I mentioned mindfulness of breathing. Mindfulness of breathing is a complete practice. That is why there is a discourse called Mindfulness of Breathing Discourse, Anapanasati Sutta. Anapanasati Sutta is a whole discourse. That entire thing you find in Satipattahana Sutta, the great discourse, the great great discourse on 4 foundations of mindfulness. In that large discourse, this is the beginning part. And that beginning part itself is taken separately and titled Anapana Sati Sutta. In Satipattahana it's called Anapana Pab, mindfulness section. What you call breathing, mindfulness of breathing section. Now mindfulness of breathing section is taken separately and called Anapana Sati Sutta. Similarly, we have Kayagata Sati, mindfulness of the body. There's one section called 32 parts of the body. 32 parts of the body is taken as a completely separate meditation. Then Dhatu Manasikara, contemplating on the 4 elements. 4 elements themselves can be used as one subject of meditation.
So main thing is to jolt out your mind, because it's attached, it's clinging. We identify with this form, and because of our ignorance. So if in any situation, if any of this thing gives us a shock to see that what is the reality it is, like why we are holding it, all these elements, and so that wisdom, this moment of that wisdom can put that spark, at least gives our vision, we can experience it.
Right. We all have studied the life of the Buddha, and it is said that when he was 29, he renounced the world by seeing 4 things. What are the 4 things? Old person, sick person, dead person, and a mendicant. Do you think he waited that long to see them? An old person? All his nurses were older than him. His father was older than him. His stepmother was older than him. He has seen many dead flowers, withered flowers, and so forth. He must have seen sick people, dead bodies, and mendicants, but never got that inspiration. Only when he came out and when he saw isolated all these individuals, and then, because he was thinking all the time, he was thinking, this is, although I live in a palace, what about other people? He has seen them all the time. But that was the moment this wisdom struck him, and immediately began to open his eyes. We all talk about sickness. Only when we go to hospital, we can see how sickness devastates somebody's life. So, similarly, all these general things normally we know, but only when we focus our mind deeply, that struck us very deeply.
The factor for that is this clarity of the mind.
Right.
So because we are always getting distracted, or we are not seeing it properly.
Can I ask a general question about Pali as a language? Pali?
Mm-hmm.
It existed before the Buddha began teaching, right? Like he chose to teach in Pali. So I guess I'm wondering, from this limited perspective, it seems very well suited to Dhamma.
What?
from my perspective, Pali seems very well suited to Dhamma in the way that you construct meaning in the language. And I'm wondering if that's a function of it being the vehicle or like the mode that Buddha taught in, or if that actually is inherent to the language. Like, was it structured by Buddha teaching in it, or was it itself inherently like lending itself to teaching Dhamma?
Yeah, he was born and lived in an area called Magadha. The language spoken in that area is called Magadhi. But Magadhi was not the language used in entire India. However, although they didn't speak the language, they could understand Magadhi to some extent. And also by the way the Buddha explained Dhamma, they could understand. That time there was no language called Pali. They used the word Magadhi. Now, that was the language people understood even in Sri Lanka those days. But they memorized the sutras, at least the essence of his teaching, memorized. From the first council, they designated individuals to memorize what he said. For instance, Anguttara Nikaya. There were a group of monks who volunteered to memorize Anguttara Nikaya. They are called Bhanaka, Anguttara Bhanaka. Some volunteered to memorize Samyutta Nikaya. They are called Samyutta Bhanaka. Some volunteers to memorize Majjhima Nikaya. They are called Majjhima Bhanaka. Some volunteer to memorize Dīgha Nikaya. They are called Dīgha Bhanaka, and so forth. So these Bhanaka groups handed their knowledge down to their future generations. So it was brought orally like that to Sri Lanka. And there, Venerable Mahinda brought it in the 1st century to Sri Lanka. Then it came down 1st century BC, 3rd century BC. Mahinda went to Sri Lanka and established it. Then for 2 centuries, rather 3 centuries, they brought it down orally. And in the 1st century BC, some far-sighted monks in Sri Lanka thought of committing them into writing. Because when you memorize certain things, when that oral tradition slowly fades away, then this will be lost. And therefore they wanted to commit it to writing. To commit it to writing, they have to use certain alphabet. They have to have grammar. Of course, grammar is very important for a dead language, because it is controlled by grammar. So they composed grammar and put the Magadhi into that grammatical form. That language is called Pali from that time. Pali means text or text language, Pali. And the word Magadhi is disappeared. Now use only the word Pali. and that is very close to Magadhi. And therefore, the main essence of the teaching is first preserved in Magadhi and then in Pali. And therefore, the Pali became sort of religious language. Things are given in a very short forms with deep and large meaning in it. Deep meanings. That is why if we have doubt in any translation into any language, including Sinhalese, we go to Pali. For instance, we use the word Dhamma. Dhamma. We can never translate that into English. We use the word Dhamma. What do we understand when you hear the word Dhamma? You may understand
Religion.
Religion. Religion. Now, religion is one thing, Dhamma is another.
Isn't Dhamma just thing?
Huh?
Isn't Dhamma thing?
Saying
Thing.
Thing.
What
thing.
about truth?
truth.
No, she's saying it's a thing, but
Thing.
Like Dhamma is thing.
like a
Thing.
noun, yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
There are when you say thing, something like this. Although Dhamma is involved in it, that alone does not mean Dhamma. Because it is so deep. The truth, somebody said truth, is Dhamma. Truth. Then what is the truth?
Four Noble Truths.
Four Noble Truths.
But then other particle with three characteristics of existence, that's
Truth. They are
which
Dhamma.
is- which-
Four Noble Truths is undeniable truth. No matter what language we use, they are true. Therefore that is Dhamma. Suppose you ask, I hate so and so. What is that?
That's the suffering.
Huh?
In a way, like for me, in a hate, like when I'm harboring that particular feeling, and it's something is true for me, but it's
Now, if you say something true for me, you get into trouble. It must be true to you as well as to me, because if you say that is true to you, it may not be true to me. So we cannot refer to one person. Truth is that encompasses everything. It prevails everywhere. Now, there is a truth in it. Hatred, then we try to see how it becomes true. How it becomes true. Hatred is Dhamma. It doesn't sound good, because people think Dhamma is something good. Dhamma doesn't have any good or bad. Dhamma is Dhamma. The truth is truth. Now hatred, we take that example. Hatred, what is hatred? Something happened that you don't like. Right? Something that happened which you don't like. And then you have irritation, anger, and lead up to hatred. The first thing is something you don't like. You don't like means what? Desire. You like or don't like. Like is desire, don't like also desire. So you come to the truth. And that is true to you, true to me, true to everybody. Whatever you don't like, you hate it. You don't like means you have a desire for something else. You don't like this, you may like something else. So the desire plays this what you call tricky role. It can camouflage, disguise in various forms and shapes. So finally we all this boil down to the same universal truth of suffering, the cause of suffering. Cause of suffering. Therefore it is Dhamma. And that is why the word Dhamma cannot be translated into one word or several words in any language, because it has so much in it.
Is it right to then say, seeing the way the things are, like as you said, we cannot construct it in several ways, but that will not involve anything, right?
Yes, as they really are.
Yeah, as they really are.
That is Dhamma.
Because then you're basically, it's like truth. You're seeing the truth as it is, without any...
Not... when we put without any subject or without putting a subject into it or making it as a subject object, when we see things as they really are.
See things as they really are is really truth. And when we say see things as they really are, it cannot be anything other than the truth. And that is Dhamma.
Is that also the meaning of Vipassana?
Huh?
Is that also the meaning of Vipassana?
Vipassana?
To see things as
Yeah.
they really are?
Yeah. Vipassana also is, that's very true, very good example. Seeing things as they really are, without distortion.
So then the other side of Vipassana is like, one can only see the things as they really are, and mind is calm, peaceful, serene.
The mind has to be in undistorted state, uncolored state, unprejudiced, impartial state. With that state, what the mind sees is what it actually is. So the truth and the mental states must unite to gain, to say anya, to say that one knows. And this is very beautifully explained in a discourse called Kalakarama Sutta in Anguttara Nikaya. Not very famous sutta. And that is how people like Bahir attain enlightenment like this. Many people attain enlightenment by seeing the truth with the pure state of mind.
Bhante, Dhamma is also does not change over time and space, right?
Dhamma is also unaffected by time.
And
That's why it is called Akalika. Akalika Dhamma.
so it's the same Dhamma after several eons or something. It's the same Dhamma that discovers by another Buddha.
Yes. Because the truth cannot be different from time to time, place to place, situation to situation. And cannot be different from person to person. If the truth is, that is why I several times mentioned, people ask us, how do we know what the Buddha really taught? Because there are so many interpretations, commentaries, sub-commentaries, additions, distortions, and so on and so forth. How do we know? How do we know what the Buddha taught?
We realize it.
Huh?
We realize it ourselves.
To realize. At least before we realize, how do we know? Suppose in a discussion like this, somebody said, this is what the Buddha said. What is our criterion to conclude that, yes, it is so?
We can experience it? No.
Experience is one thing. Criterion is, if that statement, whoever makes the statement, if that statement does not fit the Four Noble Truth, it is not the Buddha's teaching. If the statement fits, match the Four Noble Truth, that is the Buddha's teaching. The statement can be made by a Muslim, Christians, Jews, Hindus, Jains, those who don't have a religion. Anybody can make the statement. If the statement fits this framework, and then that is the Buddha's teaching. So and so, there are many people who don't even have a religion. They make statements exactly as the Buddha made. What is wrong with that? They are not referring to any particular god or particular prophet or particular so and so, so and so. But the statement is so universally true. That is Dhamma.
So some of the commandments may fit into.
Surely.
Yes, right speech, like any commandment could be right effort, right action.
Right.
Yeah.
And also so Buddha is also like Dhamma produces the fruit of Buddha. That's correct. Buddha is Dhamma and Dhamma is Buddha because it's also part of the Buddha. It's one of the nature. It occurs. Buddha, somebody will enlighten. Somebody will know the.
Yes. It is the Dhamma. You are very true. Very correct. The Dhamma made the Buddha. Buddha did not make the Dhamma.
So Dhamma is the condition for the Buddha?
Dhamma existed before the Buddha. Okay, friends. I think 2 hours are enough. Thank you. Our friend's picture is here. Who brought this picture?
Artist.
This one or her elder sister?
The other one.
The other one.
සූත්‍ර ලියන දෙනවද?
මම කියන්නේ සූත්‍රය.
ලියුවා නේද කොලේක?
Mahanidana Sutta.